The captaincies of Brazil were captaincies of the Portuguese Empire, administrative divisions and hereditary fiefs of Portugal in the colony of Terra de Santa Cruz, later called Brazil, on the Atlantic coast of northeastern South America. Each was granted to a single donee, a Portuguese nobleman who was given the title Captain General, except for two, São Vicente and Pernambuco. They were administrative and economic failures. They were effectively subsumed by the Governorates General and the states of Brazil and Maranhão starting in 1549, and the last of the privately granted captaincies reverted to the Crown in 1754. The final boundaries in the latter half of the 18th century became the basis of the provinces of Brazil. Establishment as colonies. Following the successful expedition of Martim Afonso de Sousa in 1530, in order to exploit the trade in Brazil wood discovered on the Atlantic coast, as well as explore rumors of vast riches in silver and gold in the interior, the Portuguese crown determined to establish permanent colonies in their claim on the new continent. The Portuguese realized that they had no human or financial resources to invest in a large and distant colony, and decided to assign this task to private entrepreneurs, called donatarios, each of whom would become owner and administrator of a capitania, a captaincy, a land grant. The captaincies were drawn as stripes parallel to the equator, commencing at the Atlantic coast and terminating in the west at the Tordesillas line. They were established by King John III of Portugal in 1534. Within a system of royal patronage and nepotism, 5 of the captaincies were given to 2 cousins of Finance Minister Antonio de Atide, Martim Afonso de Sousa and his brother Pero Lopes. An additional captaincy was issued to Pero de Gois, captain of Afonso's 1530 expedition. The remaining captaincies were granted to a trusted mixture of military men and court bureaucrats. Each captaincy was to be of 50 leagues height, but in practice, boundaries were marked by pairs of rivers, a plethora of which emptied into the Atlantic Ocean on the northeastern coast of the continent, so actual heights varied, as shown in the map at right. Initially 15, they were granted to 12 donees. They were the following. All but 4 captaincies failed due to inadequate resources of the donees and lack of support from the crown. 4 donees failed to take possession of the lands, and 4 more quickly succumbed to Indians. Only 4 captaincies survived past 1549. São Vicente, Pernambuco, Ilha and Porto Seguro. Subsumption by governorates. In 1549, in order to solve the governance problem of his South American colonies, King John III of Portugal established the Governorates General of Brazil. The Governorate united the 15 colonies into a single colony, but each captaincy would continue to exist as a privately owned provincial administrative unit of the Governorate. In 1572, the Governorate was split into 2 separate governorates. The Governorate General of Bahia in the north, which included Bahia and captaincies to the north, and the Governorate General of Rio de Janeiro in the south, which included all the captaincies south of Bahia, Ilha. Thereafter, the governorates split and merged, shuffling captaincies among them. Crown captaincies and provinces, beginning as early as 1548 when the captaincy of Baía dos Santos reverted to the crown due to death of its donee. The captain's donatory failed financially and faded from the picture one by one. The powers then reverted to the crown, and the donatory captaincies became crown captaincies with royal officials in place of the former grantees. The history of the captaincies is one of constant subordination, annexation and division. New donatory captaincies were carved out of territories which were too vast and difficult to administer directly, and small captaincies, nominally in private hands but often abandoned by the donatories, were annexed by larger or more successful crown captaincies. At least 15 donatory captaincies were granted through the middle of the 18th century, carved out of royal captaincies. New royal captaincies were also carved out of existing ones. During the Philippine dynasty, some of the captaincies attained the status of provinces with royal governors, and Portuguese Brazil thereafter was a mixture of donatory captaincies, royal captaincies and states. List of post-1549 captaincies. Some complications result from captaincies being merged and recreated with the same name, but representing altered regions. At least a few of the later captaincies were islands or capes of negligible size. Dates are of independent captaincies. In some cases, new captaincies were created as administrative divisions or sub-captaincies of existing ones before becoming fully independent. Fernando de Noronha 1504–1737. Itaparica and Itamarandiba 1556, split from Bahia. Rio de Janeiro 1563, renamed first section of São Vicente plus Paraíba de Sal. Paraguacus 1566, carved from Bahia. Paraíba 1580, created from part of Rio Grande, enlarged by acquisition of most of Itamaraca 1585. Rio Grande do Norte 1597, merger of northern portion of Rio Grande, Ceará and Maranhão. Cabo Frio 1615, promontory in Rio de Janeiro. Para-1616 as division of Maranhão from newly incorporated territory west of the Tordesillas line, independent in 1652. Itapecura 1621, Caete 1622, merged into Maranhão 1654. Atanheim 1624. Paranagua 1624. Paraíba de Sal 1629. Guarupa 1633. Santa Cruz de Comita within Grão Para on the lower Amazon 1633. Rio São Francisco 1634. Cabo Norte 1637, from newly incorporated territory merged into Maranhão 1654. Vigia 1652. Ilha Grande 1665, merged into Maranhão. Xingu 1685, within Maranhão. Araraba 1690, within Pernambuco. São Paulo and Minas de Ouro 1709, renamed from São Vicente. Minas Gerais 1720, split from São Paulo and Minas de Ouro. São Paulo 1720, remaining after Minas Gerais split. Mirim 1723, within Maranhão. Huma 1727, sub-captaincy split from Maranhão. Santa Catarina 1739, split from São Paulo. Goiás 1748, split from São Paulo. Mato Grosso 1748, split from São Paulo. São José do Rio Negro 1755, split from Para. Grão Para 1755, renamed portion of Para after Rio Negro split. Piauí 1759, split from Maranhão. Espírito Santo 1799, independent from Bahia. Rio Grande do Sul 1760, newly incorporated territory of Rio Grande do São Pedro. Ceará 1799, split from Pernambuco. Rio Grande do Norte 1808, split from Pernambuco. Alagoas 1817, split from Pernambuco. Sergipe 1820, split from Bahia. Pernambuco and São Vicente. The Captaincy of Pernambuco thrived due to sugarcane plantations. The Captaincy of São Vicente, called São Paulo after the city of São Paulo became its capital in 1681, obtained success through the exploration of the hinterland known as bandeiras. In 1621, these became the basis from the southeastern state of Brazil, provinces of Brazil. In 1815, the state of Brazil was elevated to a kingdom and all existing provinces and crown captaincies became provinces of the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil and the Algarves. Legacy of the captaincies. 13 modern states have names of the predecessor captaincies, and several cities. The captaincies immortalized a set of Tupi-Guarani place names, chiefly those of rivers and mountains, in echoes of the feudal system of landed noblemen. The huge fazendas of the 18th and 19th centuries were allocated from the land holdings of the captaincies. Brazil today still lives with the legacy of a plantation culture that consumed 4 million African slaves and left land ownership hideously askew. An elite 1.7% of the landowners continue to own nearly half the arable land. The top 10% of the nation earns half the income.